Is it doubtful, and are there different opinions on working in the field of insurance, say as like a computer engineer?
It's like any other issue, there are many things which are doubtful to some, lawful to others. Doubtful to some, necessity to others. No doubt it's doubtful. Under normal circumstances, this would be haram. Under normal circumstances, we would shun the people from this. Under normal circumstances. But the question is, when's the last time that the world, let alone the Islamic world, has been under normal circumstances? That's a very harsh question. When's the last time the world has been under normal circumstances? The Muslims, normal circumstances. So therefore, if a Muslim works with insurance, that's not the best thing to do. There are many haram elements involved in insurance. But at the same time, we all have insurance. Whether it's car insurance, house insurance, life insurance. And oftentimes you don't have a choice. Not all of the times, but oftentimes. And if you don't have insurance, oftentimes you'll go through more hardships, and you may be even forced to do other haram acts because you don't have insurance. Okay, so that's a problem. All right, what's important is try your best to avoid it. And if you can't avoid it, it's one thing. And of course, the bitter reality is Muslims are needed in all fields. And the default setting is the more Muslims, conscious Muslims, aware Muslims involved, hopefully we can weed out the haram more. Because there's an inside guy who allows us to say, listen, you don't have to pay that. Just do this, etc. So try your best. That's the best thing I can say with regards to that. And Allah surely knows best. Uncle Faz, follow.
Yes, Sheikh. Raising of the hands in Salah.
Raising of the hands in the Salah. Tayyib. There lies no doubt that the Prophet ﷺ raised his hands in the prayer. Did he raise his hand in every position, every rak'ah, every step? Not necessarily. But there's no doubt that he raised his hands in many places in the prayer. So the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, without a question, is to raise the hands during the initial takbir, for sure. To raise the hands at the time of ruku'. To raise the hands coming out of the ruku'. To raise the hands coming from the first tashahhud, if it's Zuhur or Asr or Maghrib. And there are other narrations and other hadiths in which the Prophet ﷺ is quoted to have raised his hands, such as between the sujood, etc. So it's the sunnah to raise the hands in the prayer. It's not always in every place obligatory, but that is the Prophet's practice. Alright? There's a scholastic debate regarding that the hands should not be raised except in the first takbirah. There are scholars who hold that view, great scholars of Islam, but there lies no doubt that view is not a strong view. That view clashes with many authentic, clear hadiths. And the dalil, the counterproof against those authentic, clear hadiths are either doubtful, vague hadiths, or hadiths which are plain, outwardly weak, clearly weak. And of course, there are excuses for different imams to hold different opinions. Maybe this imam didn't know about this hadith, or maybe he knew about it, but he didn't consider it authentic. But we are looking in hindsight. We're not living during the time of Abu Hanifa, Imam al-Bukhari. We're living in 2021. So we have the ability to see everything that they saw and more on a broad scale and scope. And it's unnecessary for us to stick blindly to the view of Bukhari, or Abu Hanifa, or Ahmed, or Fulan, or Fulan, or Fulan, once it's clear. Once it's what? Once it's clear. Like an army, a battle. The commander, he cannot assess the entire battlefield if he's on the front rank. If he's leading from the front. Of course, he shows his bravery, he leads the troops. But he has to be wise, he has to stand back and see everything. Because he may order with an attack, which is improper. He may call a retreat, which is improper. It's not the same as when he's standing on the hill, looking through the scope and the lens, and he can see everything. Let alone those who study battles and wars, and they assess all of the information. And they say, this is what happened, this was a mistake, he should have done this, etc., etc. So when it comes to studying fiqh, learning fiqh as Muslims, we have to understand is that the imams, how they lived, is different than how we live. we have access, we can see everything laid out. And it's not right to cling to the excuse of an imam. He had an excuse why he held that view. He didn't know about those hadiths. It didn't reach him in Iraq. It didn't reach him in Medina. It didn't reach him, etc. But that's not us living now. So no doubt the sunnah is to raise the hands in the prayer. And there are many authentic hadiths regarding that. And Allah surely knows best. Well, yakum. Any other questions? Fadl.
Yeah, a question about the wiping the socks. Different groups of people have different opinion about what constitutes the socks. What is the definition of socks? What the socks that we have now versus the socks the Prophet ﷺ wear, right? And also, I want you to explain if there is if we should make a difference between the kind of socks that we have now versus what the socks the Prophet wore. Secondly, is it also something to say it's the Prophet wiped his socks, so therefore we should wipe, or that should be the default, wipe your socks. That should be the preference versus washing the feet. Because the Prophet wiped his socks versus washing the feet.
Clear.
Can you explain that?
Jazakallah khair. With regards to socks versus khufs versus socks. Are they the same? Do they take the same ruling? Etc. No doubt, a leather sock, thick leather sock versus a cotton sock or a poly cotton sock or wool sock, there are differences for sure. The nature of the fabric, leather is not like wool. With regards to transparency, thickness, etc., etc., etc. That's a fact. A leather jacket is not like a wool sweater. One keeps the wind out, one, etc. Different types, different fabrics, all right, different materials. Now the question has to be asked, why did the Prophet ﷺ, number one, wear khuf? And two, why did he allow the khuf to be wiped over? Of course, the Prophet wore khufs for the following reasons. Number one, style. Style of the Arabs and other nations. That was their style. Number two, warmth. Keeping the feet warm when it's cold or when it's wet. Three, coolness. When the ground is hot, keeping the feet cool. And four, one could say protection for the foot. Protection for the foot. All right? So there's 4 reasons why the Arabs and other nations wore leather socks. In 2021, why do we wear socks? Because of style, no doubt about that. Because of warmth, no doubt about that. Because of
Protection.
coolness, keeping your feet from sweating. And also because of protection, getting in the cut, sand, etc., etc., etc. So there lies no doubt that the khuf and the sock, they share the same objectives. And if they share the same, even though the material is different, then they're going to take the same ruling. And that's because the Sharia comes down for the ease of the servants, the facilitation of the slave to worship Allah. So therefore, Allah does not look at the race or the time or the place. Allah looks at the need in one of the people. So therefore, those 4 reasons that are found in leather socks are also found in cotton, polycotton, wool, silk, nylon socks as well. So in brief, it's permissible to wipe over the socks that we wear today in 2021. It's permissible. Are there conditions for wiping over the socks? Yes. Similar to the conditions of wiping over the khuf. Such as you have washed your feet before you put on the socks. Such as the time limit. If you're at home, only 24 hours. If you're traveling, 72 hours. If you have a janaba, you become junub, you have to take off your socks when you make a ghusl, etc. Okay? As far as a tear in the sock, a rip in the sock, a hole in the sock, or as far as even if the sock is a little transparent and thin, it's still lawful to wipe over that sock. And of course, there are different madhabs regarding this. There's not consensus. The scholars have different details, just like they differ on issues pertaining to the khuf. Can you wipe over a ripped leather sock? They differ on certain things with regards to the khufs, so there are going to be details with regards to the modern day socks. But there lies no doubt, if you look at it just from common sense, If you had to remove your socks every time you had to make wudu, outside, traveling, working, cold, snow, rain, that would be a great hardship. And Allah clearly states in the Quran, وَمَا جَعَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي الدِّينِ مِنْ حَرَجٍ. Allah has not made any hardship upon you in your religious practice. So wearing socks and having the ability to wipe over them, no doubt about that, it goes hand in hand with the khuf. And whoever separates the two is going to need textual proof, and most importantly, he's going to need what? Intellectual proof, because it's just common sense. We're in America, they were in Arabia. They wore the khuf for the same reasons that we wear our socks. Well, we may have more reasons today to wear socks, etc. All right. As far as the second part of the question, and that's in brief. As far as the second part of the question, is it best to wipe instead of washing? Then once a person has washed his feet, let's say in the morning time for fajr, you wake up, you wash your feet, you make a complete wudu or a ghusl. You wash your feet, you dry your feet off, whether you put on lotion or not, you put your socks on. You go to the masjid, you wait for duha, you make your duha, you read some Quran, you eat some breakfast, and then you go to work. When dhuhr time comes at work, 1 o'clock, 1:15, 1:20, you still have on your socks, you still have on your shoes, you're going to pray at work. Should I take off my shoes and my socks, or should I wash my feet? The sunnah is to wipe over the shoes or the socks, whatever you're praying in. And you should not remove your socks if you have the proper wudu previously before. That's not the sunnah, all right? And there are certain Muslims and other Muslims in and outside of the fold of Islam who don't believe that it's permissible to wipe over khufs or socks. So they intentionally take off their socks and wash their feet or wipe their feet. So we should make sure that we do the opposite. We do the opposite and we manifest the sunnah. It's permissible, and not only is it permissible, but Allah wants us to take ease in His religion. Allah wants us to have facilitation. So the socks should not be removed, and the sunnah is to wipe over them and not to take them off. And if you decided that you wanted to make a thorough wudu, it's not haram, but it's not best. Wallahu a'lam. Fadl Shaykh.
Would that principle apply also for the woman when they are wearing their hijab? They have the wudu and
A woman wiping over her hijab when she has wudu, does that principle apply as well? For sure. The principle of the sock and the principle of a turban. Why do men wear turbans? Style, warmth, coolness, protection. And these are some reasons why women wear khimars too, let alone hijab. They have to wear the hijab. So if a woman has the ability to take it off versus her being outside, she's in the public bathroom, she's at the masjid, untying this, unfastening this, etc. So therefore, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, there's nothing wrong with a woman wiping over her khimar. But the difference is, Sheikh, the same with the turban, is that there is no time limit, and you do not have to have wudu before the khimar or the turban is put on. That's the difference between the socks and the head coverings. As far as the socks, the khuf, whatever you wear in the boots, you must have had put them on after a what? A washing, a wudu washing. As far as the turban, then you're allowed to wipe over the turban even though you had not made an original wudu on your head. And the same is going to apply to the khimar and any other type of head covering which is difficult to remove. Not impossible to remove, but what? Difficult. Wallahu a'lam. Fadl Abu Husam.
How do we know the difference between a dream that's from the Shaytan or a dream?
How do we know the difference? A dream from Shaytan or a dream from Allah, a true dream? Khair, inshallah, we've explained this in detail in our previous, or the one before on our monthly lecture. The month before last. We did a full lecture on dream interpretation. The brief answer is, a dream from Allah has signs. From those signs is the clarity of the dream. It's vivid, clear. It's not fuzzy, it's not shaky, but it's clear, it's plain. Number two, when you have the dream. There are certain times which are signs that the dream is from Allah versus a nightmare. Number 3 is how you live, your lifestyle. What type of person you are. How do you live when you're awake? How do you walk and talk when your eyes are open? A big part of that is going to come to you in your dream. So you live as a true person, you eat the halal, you're honest, you're upfront. Allah will give you true, clear dreams. Don't eat from the halal, you're not an open, upfront, honest type of person. Different story. Also, how you go to sleep. Making dhikr, making tawbah, reciting ayatul kursi, Allah protecting you from shaitan, versus you going to sleep defenseless, with no dhikr. These are signs from the dream being true and the dream being from shaitan. And of course, a big part of this is going to be based off of the interpreter. The one that you go to, and you give him the specific details and the general details of your life. He can, inshallah, or she can determine what seems to be from Allah, what seems to be just a nightmare, or just to be recycled or unused information and data, which is a big part of dreaming. Some specialists say is that when you're awake, you see so much, you hear so much, you take in so much, and that when you sleep, oftentimes that's the backwash of all of that information and data. So there are signs between which of the 3 categories. Is it from Allah? Allah telling you something, showing you something, giving you glad tidings, warning you from something? Is it a dream from shaitan to make you afraid and scared? Or is it a dream from your own nafs? Something that you're thinking about or afraid of, something that you want, or something that you just gathered, but your mind didn't focus and concentrate on when you were awake. And Allah surely knows best. That's in brief. Wa yakum. Fadl.
So you shared in a khutbah a while back about wearing the shoes in the masjid, and it's from the Sunnah because I guess it goes against what the Jews and Christians did. The masjids back then, were they like this, carpeted or like outdoors? And how do we get that to work with respect to keeping
wearing shoes in the masjid?
Yeah.
The sunnah of praying in shoes and the carpets, etc., etc. Of course, the masjids were not like how they were back then. Not just from the carpets, but from everything. There was no sisters' side back then. The sisters were not upstairs or downstairs or in another building. The women in the time of the Prophet ﷺ were behind the men. Number 2, technology, electricity, a fan, air conditioning, a microphone. Many things didn't exist in the time of the Prophet ﷺ. And it has an effect on the rulings, such as shortening the prayer, hastening the prayer, because the people are hot, the people are tired. And also the carpets, which are a blessing, and at the same time could be a curse. Of course, it's comfortable, soft, it's clean, it's nice, but at the same time, the carpet can make you sleepy, or the carpet can make you lose attention and focus because it's so elaborate, or the carpet could be a means of taking the wealth of the Muslims. We have to raise money for extravagant carpets. These carpets were shipped over from Turkey. They come from Singapore. I've been in masjids in which they've got carpets and tapestries imported. How much money does that cost? These tiles, this is a true story. The brother, he said these tiles, they were imported from Turkey. Beautiful tiles on the wall. How much money does that cost? How many orphans could be fed with that? Or more important things could be done with that money. All right? So the carpet is a blessing and a curse. All right? That's number 1. And let alone the type of carpets that are in most masjids. Thin carpets, simple basic carpets, or lush carpets. All carpets aren't the same. So therefore, it's the sunnah to pray in the shoes, just like it's the sunnah to pray barefoot. The Prophet, he did both. But the problem is, we do not allow worldly comfort to dominate sunnah. Because we have nice fluffy carpets, don't pray with your shoes. And we don't want to destroy the wealth that we have. Allah has given us wealth. Allah tells us, وَلَا تُبَذِّرُوا تَبْذِيرًا. Don't waste your money. وَلَا تُسْرِفُوا. Don't go extreme. Don't throw away money. So we throw away the sunnah to keep worldly comfort and luxury. Of course, that thinking is what? That's backwards. We're not going to do sunnah to preserve worldly luxury. That doesn't make any sense. All right? Last but not least is, like we said before, I'm sure you've been in a bank or a doctor's office or a dentist's office in which on the floor was what? Carpet. And people wear what? Shoes. How does the carpet look in the dentist's office? Is it dirty? Steve, does it look dirty? You going to the bank or is it clean?
Dirty.
You say dirty, what you say, Khalid? Spotless clean, the ones I've been in. People, how many hundreds of people walk in and out of this place? And the carpet is what? Clean. It's a different type of carpet. The carpet is not made just for lush plus. That's your house, that's your bedroom. So the point I'm trying to make is, I'm trying to make one point, is that it's possible to have carpet and at the same time, what? Have shoes. It is possible. That's the point. And that's what the kuffar are. But you got to understand that there are wisdoms behind praying in shoes. From the wisdoms is that it allows you to have khushu'. You're not worrying about someone stealing your shoes or stepping on your shoes. It's a reality. 2, especially overseas. America's a little different. UK, Canada is different, but overseas, most of the shoe racks are where? No, inside the masjid, in the rows. So the sunnah is to check your shoe, is to look under your sandal, your khuf. Did you step in something foul or bad? So if no one is praying in your shoes, that means no one's what? They're not checking. So they're walking in the masjid with their shoes, who knows what's under those shoes, and they're putting those shoes where? In Allah's house, between the rows. Versus, I'm going to pray in my shoes, so let me what? Let me check. Let me dust it off. So the concept of the hikmah of the sunnah, it makes you conscious of certain things. So overseas, Medina, different Muslim countries I've been to, they place their shoes inside of the masjid or in a bag. So Allah, what filth is inside of the what? The masjid, between the rows, let alone people stealing shoes. It's a known fact. So at the end of the day, it's the sunnah to pray in shoes, which is clearly established in the Prophet ﷺ's ahadith. And unfortunately, this issue has become a major issue over which people fight, people argue, people threaten each other, so on and so on and so forth. And it shouldn't be that way. If you don't want to pray in your shoes, if you have nice fluffy carpets, no problem. But do not denounce the authentic tradition of the Prophet ﷺ. Don't speak from ignorance, which many Muslims, they do. They don't even know that the Prophet ﷺ prayed in his shoes and told the people to pray in his shoes. Prayed in his khufs and told the people to pray in their khufs. They don't even know. And then they speak without knowledge. And they denounce things without knowledge. And this is one of the ugliest sins in our Islam. It's to speak without knowledge. So if you don't want to wear the shoes, no problem. It's not obligatory. It's not wajib. But what? Keep silent. And don't denounce that which you have no knowledge of. Wallahu a'lam. Fadl Shaykh.
Deviating from the fiqh issues, I was reading to Buruj, and there were different understanding about this word Buruj. وَالسَّمَاءِ ذَاتِ الْبُرُوجِ. Would you care me to give some understanding on that?
Right. وَالسَّمَاءِ ذَاتِ الْبُرُوجِ. What's meant by this word Buruj? In general, in brief, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, especially in Juz Amma, He swears by many things. And most of these things are things that we see in the universe. Some things are on land, and many things are in the sky. Tariq, was-samai, wa-tariq. Okay, Allah talks about stars and other planets and other bodies. So, whether they agree specifically on what's meant by Buruj, constellations, what the non-Muslims say, Little Dipper, Big Dipper, so on and so forth, stars, planets, is the moon or is the sun a star, etc. La shak, no doubt, the concept of towers and buildings in the sky. And Allah talks about the clouds in the sky, like mountains and other chapters of the Quran. So all of these things, these phenomenal things that we see in our universe, Allah swears by them to remind us, to wake up, that He is the only one creator. Whether the word Buruj is talking about stars, or whether it's talking about constellations. And of course, it's a long discussion with regards to astronomy versus astrology. And looking towards the stars and the skies, navigation, agriculture, almanac, soothsaying, superstitions, etc. Very long discussion. The Quran mentions why the sky has been made and why those nujum or buruj, why they're placed there, and we know what's correct. That's in brief. Wallahu alam. Fadal.
What are the conditions of joining Salah and how?
Joining Salat
And how?
and how? Salat is to be joined for a specific reason. Those specific reasons are as follows. Number 1, traveling. Number 2, sickness. Number 3, irregular blood flow of a woman. Number 4, fighting in the cause of Allah. Number 5, occasional need. A need that you have and you're afraid and you know in most cases you're going to miss the salah. So traveling, clear. Going from New York to New Jersey, you're traveling. So you're going to make Dhuhr and Asr together. Either at the beginning of Dhuhr time or you're going to delay Dhuhr until the beginning of Asr time. As soon as Asr comes in, you make Dhuhr, you make Asr. Maghrib and Isha. As soon as Maghrib comes in, you're going to pray 3 and you're going to make 2 for Isha. Or you're going to intentionally skip Maghrib and make Maghrib as soon as Isha comes in. 3 and then make the 2 for Isha. So that's traveling. After traveling, we mentioned sickness. Without shortening. A man is very sick, he's ill. It's hard to get up, it's hard to wake up. The medicine makes me sleepy. So I'm going to make Dhuhr and Asr in the time of Dhuhr. Without shortening. Without shortening. Number 3, we mentioned what? Irregular bleeding. A woman is not her normal monthly cycle. The bleeding is irregular, it's abnormal, it's a hardship. Cleaning, washing, wudu, etc. She's allowed to combine Dhuhr and Asr, Maghrib and Isha, without shortening. Fighting in the cause of Allah, Salatul Khawf. In most cases, when the Prophet ﷺ fought, he was traveling. But a person may fight without traveling. So with regards to shortening, combining, and the need of fighting, paying attention, being under threat, etc. And last but not least, we said when there is a need, I'm going somewhere and I'm not going to have anywhere to pray. The chances of me getting out there on time, me making wudu, is going to be very, very, very slim. I know I'm going to be held up in this place for sure. And it's a big possibility that I'm going to miss the salah. It's winter time, the day is very short. I have to go in there before Maghrib. I'm not going to come out until after such and such. So I'm going to intentionally combine my prayers, etc. And of course, that's not to be abused. That's not going to be something that you're going to do every day. But you may feel that I'm going to be stuck in traffic. I know I'm going to be stuck in traffic. But I have to go at 6 p.m. in the middle of rush hour. So therefore, I'm going to make my Dhuhr and my Asr before I travel. That's how it's going to be done. If it's in Jama'ah, you make the 1 adhan, 2 iqamas. If you're by yourself, inshallah, you make 2 iqamas if you want to. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. That's in brief.
What the permission?
What's that? Weather. Tayyib. Yes, okay. Some scholars have allowed people to combine prayers with regards to inclement weather. Snow, wind, rain, mud, extreme heat, and some extreme cases. And the same applies to 1 adhan, 2 iqamas. So the people that are going to make the adhan for Maghrib, they pray, they find out that it's pouring raining, or they knew before they didn't know. They're going to make Salat al-Isha with 1 iqama and the normal amount of raka'at with regards to bad weather. And that's only for the Masjid. Bad weather, you only combine prayers not in your house. And the whole purpose of it is for you not to have to come back out to the Masjid. So if you're going out to the supermarket later, obviously that's a problem. And Allah knows best. We'll take a question from online, inshallah.
No. Initials AH from London, UK. Assalamu alaikum, Mufti. Can I do morning adhkar straight after Fajr adhan, or is it better to do it after the Salah?
Questions regarding morning adhkar. Right after Fajr, what'd you say? After the adhan?
After the adhan or after the Salah?
Make it after Salah, inshallah. But before you do the morning adhkar, to make the salat adhkar, the fajr adhkar, the normal 5 daily prayer dhikr. Then inshallah you move on to the morning adhkar. Inshallah. Allahu Alam.
Initials MD from Atlanta, Georgia. Assalamu alaikum. What is the ruling on reciting and listening to Quran with maqamat?
Question regarding maqamat, reciting and listening, etc. Recite the Quran, listen to the Quran, and there's no need for a maqamat. And Allah knows best.
Initials TA from the Bronx, New York. Does an ambassador of a Muslim country count as a Muslim ruler? Does the same ruling about not condemning rulers apply to them? Recently, an ambassador went to Israel praising them. Is it haram to speak against this specific person?
Does an ambassador count for a ruler of a Muslim? Does it take the same rulings? An ambassador went to Israel and praised them. Can we condemn them, etc.? Regardless whether a person is an ambassador or a prime minister, whatever name or title he or she is given, if the system of government is Islamic, based off of Quran and Sunnah, not necessarily perfect, but it's based off of Quran and Sunnah, not secular. It's not based off of something foreign to Quran and Sunnah. Then they are a ruler. Maybe not the top ruler, but they're from the ulul amr, the people of command. Okay? And that's the government, as I said, that is based off of Islam. And for a government to be based off of Islam, it doesn't have to be perfect. There were mistakes in the time of the Prophet. A woman made zina. People stole. People beat up people in the time of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But that's not the same as a government being based off of secular principles and values, and the majority of the country is Muslim. Two different things. Many people confused. They aren't the same. All right? So if a person is their government is based off of other than Quran and Sunnah, then there's a political leader. That's it. They don't qualify to be under any Islamic sanctity if they're not under Islamic ruling, Islamic government. All right. As far as condemning a ruler, condemning someone, so on and so on and so forth. At the end of the day, many of the Salaf Salih, they will make inkar. They will make inkar openly and publicly in different instances. Marwan, with regards to the khutbah in the salah, Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, the khutbah is supposed to be after the salah. Right? The man, he stood up. And Marwan, at the time, the leader of the Muslims, he made the salah, what? After the khutbah, so the people could stay. And the man stood up and he made inkar. He says, that's not how the Prophet did it. And he says, قَدْ ذَهَبَ مَا هُنَاكَ أو مَا هُنَالِكَ. He says, the good days, this is very interesting hadith now in Sahih Muslim. The good days are gone. قَدْ ذَهَبَ مَا هُنَاكَ. Abu Bakr, Umar, that's gone. The people will not stay and listen to me. So therefore, that's why I did the khutbah first, then the salah. And the man told him, that's not how the Prophet did it. And then Abu Sa'id radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he said, أَمَّا هَذَا فَقَدْ قَضَى مَا عَلَيْهِ. This man has done his job. And then he quoted the Prophet ﷺ who said, مَنْ رَأَى مِنْكُمْ مُنْكَرًا. Whoever sees an evil, he should, etc. So this is an example among others in which some of the Salaf Salih rejected and denounced and condemned things that were done publicly against Quran and Sunnah. Now, is there a difference between saying something that's evil, speaking out against something that's evil, versus making a systematic way of criticizing the government and speaking out against the government, etc., etc.? Of course, there's a difference. And even if it isn't an Islamic issue, it may be an issue which is harmful to you. So you have to be careful. Just because you live in a country, it doesn't mean you agree with everything that the rulers are doing or everything that the government is doing. But you have to be mindful of your well-being. And if you have the bravery to sacrifice yourself, that doesn't mean everyone else has to have that bravery. Secondly, you may be prevented from doing more good because of you sacrificing yourself. So you have to be mindful of that. You have to be mindful of that. At the end of the day, the system of government today in most countries around the world, we all know what it is. How the governments monopolize Islam, and they only quote that which is for them. Don't speak out against the ruler. Don't criticize the ruler. Deaf, dumb, and blind, hear no evil, see no evil. Summun, bukmun, umyun. We know that's the agenda and that's the propaganda that's pushed. But the Quran and the Sunnah clearly says, stand up, speak out, don't be afraid. Do not allow the blame of the blamers. That's what the Quran and Sunnah says. That's what the Quran and Sunnah teaches us. And Allah knows best. Last but not least, with regards to these different political issues, you have to look at the country in which you're at, such as protests. There are some people who say protests are haram, you can't do a protest. And a protest is going against a Muslim ruler. There's some people who say things like this, and that's fine. But they say that even in America. First of all, is there a Muslim ruler in America? The level of stupidity of some people. They'll quote this Sheikh Fulan. You cannot protest in the United States because Sheikh Fulan says it's going against the Muslim ruler. Well, the last time I checked, Joe Biden, Trump, Barack Obama weren't what? Muslims. That's number one. Number two, it is not illegal to do peaceful protests and demonstrations. So even if it's forbidden there, it doesn't mean that the government is bothered and afraid and worried about it here, because they openly allow political voicing. So we can't live in a hypocritical world. We live in a world in which people voice their opinions on social media. We live in a world in which celebrities are asked about their opinions and their stances, praising or condemning acts. So we can't just play hush, hush, shush, shush when we want to, and then speak out against things, condemn people, talk about things, force people to take positions when we want to. And we cannot turn a blind eye to the world. People dying, bombs being dropped on people, all types of atrocities, and we just say, hear no evil, see no evil, know no evil, and turn a blind eye. We're not Christians. That's not our way, to just turn a blind eye and turn the other cheek. And Allah has praised this ummah by commanding the good and forbidding the evil. So that's what we need to be mindful of. And Allah knows best. Faddal. You have any other questions? Faddal, Shaykh.
Yes. Is it allowed to eat on papaya, when the fish frying in oil, the chicken frying?
Tell me eat fish from Popeyes, so on and so forth. That depends on how good the fish is, Sheikh. It was good, the shrimp and the fish is good, huh? At the end of the day, no doubt they're using the same grease, so that should be avoided. It should be avoided. It's coming in contact with things that are not halal, whether it be the chicken that's not halal, or whether it be actual swine, or any other thing which is haram. That's the general rule. Even though when you fry something, it's not the same as something being prepared in a different way, in a different manner. But it should be avoided. However, be honest, you may be traveling, you're driving somewhere, you're flying somewhere, you can't eat the meat, you can't go there, you can't go here. Sometimes you may be hungry. And that may be the best option that you have, is to get a fish sandwich from Burger King. So fare Allah the best way you can. Those who travel, plane, train, bus, 18-wheeler, you know the hardships of eating when you're traveling, when you're in the Midwest, when you're in the middle of nowhere. There is no Muslim restaurant, there is no this restaurant, you're in the middle of nowhere. And sometimes you have to make the best out of what? The situation. Wallahu a'lam.
Question online?
Or no? Maqbool?
Exactly.
Faddal.
I have a question.
Faddal.
You mentioned if you're traveling, like say to Jersey. Like let's say you're walking every day in New Jersey. Is it permissible to join yourself there every day?
Right. Those who travel every day, can they continue to join the prayers, join the prayers, etc.? As long as they're travelers, it's allowed, even if it's done daily. And in most cases, if you go to Jersey every day, or Delaware, or Pennsylvania, etc., Ohio, in most cases you're going to be back for certain prayers, Fajr, Isha, or something. Lakin, the honest answer is that as long as you're a traveler, تنطبق عليك أحكام المسافر, even if it's daily, And the general rule, based off of the authentic hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, إن الله يحب أن تؤتى رخصه كما يكره أن تؤتى معاصيه أو كما قال صلى الله عليه وسلم. Allah loves for you to take His allowances, just as He hates for you to disobey Him. And as the Prophet ﷺ said to the companions, when they asked him about shortening the prayer, traveling, the days when they were fighting, Allah gave them victory over the kuffar, etc. We don't have any fear anymore. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Sadaqatun, tasaddaq Allahu biha alaykum, faqbalu sadaqatahu. He says, this is a charity from Allah. Allah gave you charity, so it's unbefitting for you to reject His charity. Wallahu a'lam.
Question from online. Initials AH from Hamilton, Canada. What are the conditions for a woman to get an education and to work, especially considering that oftentimes a woman will have to be alone with a man or work closely with men over time?
What are the conditions for a woman to work? A woman has to be alone with a man, or be close to a man, etc. To answer the question properly, we have to look at the jobs that men have. When men are alone with women, or very close parameter or vicinity of women, looking at women, talking with women, laughing with women, joking with women. It's reality. So we can't be so strict on women. You can't get a job, you can't get an education, it's haram to work. But all day at work, I'm surrounded by women. Let alone if I'm flirtatious. Or even if I'm not flirtatious, just cordial. Hey, how you doing? All right, have a nice day, etc. Just being a professional, cordial person. But you're around women all day. It's a fitna. So we have to make sure that our jobs as men are in compliance to the deen before we go the extra mile and making it hard upon women to work and to get an education. And there are many brothers, unfortunately, they do this. Fathers that say, my son, he can go to college. The girls are dressed half naked, as the Prophet ﷺ told us. Sinfani min ahlin nari lam arahuma. He says there are two types of people that will be in hell, two groups that I haven't seen yet. They haven't become prevalent in my time. And from them, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Nisa'un kasiyatun ariyat. Is that a women who are clothed and at the same time naked. That's a reality. They're wearing clothes, but what's being hidden? What's covered? There's nothing left of the imagination. So my son, he can be around that. He can see that. He's going through puberty, 16, 17. He can talk with girls, no problem. But my daughter, no, she can't go to college because a boy may bump into her or talk to her. A boy may smile at her, or she may have to do homework with a boy. That's haram. That's ayib. That's hypocrisy. His son is going through fitna, let alone, Allahu Alam, how long will he lost his virginity? How many girlfriends he has? Allahu Alam, what your son has done. So we can't be extra strict with boys, with girls, and super loose with boys. So that's the first problem with regards to this answer. Number two, a woman working depends on why she needs to work. She's a single parent, different story. She has to take care of her sick grandma, her sick father, different story. Or she just wants to work. She wants to have money, she wants to be responsible. Khair. I mean, look at our lifestyles. I've been to colleges, no exaggeration, done lectures at colleges. Brothers come up to me and they say, Mufti, what's the rule on having Sister Fulana as the head of the MSA? Is it permissible for a woman to be in charge of the MSA? Because the Prophet ﷺ says, لا يفلح قوم ولوا أمرهم امرأة. People won't succeed if a woman is the leader. I say, Ya akhi, you go to this college, just look down the hall, look here, look there. Are you serious? You're worrying about a sister wearing hijab, standing in front of the classroom, being the president of the MSA, and you're sitting next to Tracy and Kimberly and Fulana and this one and that one. Like, be honest with yourself. And it goes back to the hypocrisy. And as we said before, this is very important. Feminism is a product of chauvinism. Extreme in one thing, and force women and other men to go in the extreme of another thing. So if you're going to walk and live that pious life, that applies to everything. Men aren't allowed to go to college, nor are women. Men aren't allowed to work around women, nor are women allowed to work around men. As far as if you dip and dab, you allow this, it's okay, I have to get a degree, I have to study, then how are you going to say that a woman can't do that? So that's a problem. And as I said before previously, many of the things that we do today as Muslims would never ever be accepted under the normal Islamic Sunnah conditions. But that's based off of the condition of the modern world. When was the last time the world was in line with the Sunnah? So there are many things that we do on a daily basis. They're not supposed to be how they are, but they are because of circumstance. So if a woman goes, she studies, she works, she's dressed properly, she keeps her professionalism, her Islamic shine, and she tries her best, khair, inshallah. Wallahu a'lam. It's time for the adhan.
10
No,
minutes.
no, we got 5 minutes.
Question, Sheikh.
Further.
We often have discussion about what constitutes a divorce, what is the way of doing a divorce. Nobody seems to have the right answer to it. Everybody's speculating, if I say I divorce you, that means it's cut us over. So, can you explain how it should be done?
Clear. Well, there are 2 ways, or there are 3 ways of doing a divorce. The first way of doing a divorce is the proper way, the premium way, the Sunnah way of divorcing. And the second way of divorcing is improper, but it still may count as a divorce, and it is divorce, but it's not done the best way. And the third way of doing divorce is also improper, but it's so improper that the divorce means nothing. She's still your wife. The divorce did not go through. Like a transaction. You did the improper way. It says transaction what? Declined. It means nothing. No money, nothing has been exchanged from one thing to the next because you did it wrong. Right? So therefore, the Sunnah way of divorce. And we're not talking about is it okay or is it recommended to divorce. We're talking about when it's time to divorce. It's for a man to divorce his wife once. Not twice. Not 3 times. One separate time to pronounce I divorce you with 2 witnesses. 2 just Muslim witnesses. And he is to divorce her in a time in which he has not slept with her and she is not menstruating. Meaning she's already pregnant from him, or she came off of her monthly cycle, she made a ghusl, she started praying, and he did not sleep with her since. So if today is Wednesday, my wife came off of her menses on Sunday. I was in Delaware traveling. I got back to New York City Wednesday night. She made a ghusl on Sunday night. So from Sunday night, Monday, Tuesday, all the way to Wednesday evening, she was pure. She was praying, fasting. And I did not have intercourse with her since. As far as if I slept with her last night, me divorcing her tonight is improper. As far as I'm not sure whether she's mincing or not, that's improper. So, one divorce with 2 witnesses in a calm state, not in a state of anger, and in a time in which you did not sleep with her since she became clean, or at least she's pregnant. Meaning, if my wife is 6 months pregnant, it's permissible for me to divorce her even though I slept with her on Monday night because she's pregnant. And her having a baby is going to be one time period. It's not going to be I slept with her, does she go off of a period, is she pregnant? That is the Sunnah way of divorce. So, a man is not to be angry, throwing things, punching the wall, breaking things. Regardless of the reason, he's done the necessary steps, advising her, separating the bed, the proper hitting that is mentioned in the Quran. The last step, he says, I divorce you. Calls 2 brothers on the phone, or he goes to the Masjid, please bear witness. On this date, I divorced my wife. He did not sleep with her last night, or since she came off her cycle, or she's what? Pregnant already. And the divorce is only supposed to be one time, not divorce, divorce, divorce. Talaq, talaq, talaq. One divorce. That's it. That's the Sunnah way of divorce. As far as divorcing a woman who's menstruating, that's an X. Divorcing a woman 3 times and 1 time, that's a what? That's an X. Divorcing a woman, you're extremely angry, that's a what? It's a red X. Divorcing a woman because she didn't do something right, but you didn't advise her, you didn't teach her, or she's ignorant like you're ignorant. You're not even teaching her Islam. That's a red what? X. But it doesn't mean that the divorce is not valid. Last but not least, the incorrect divorce is anything which violates stage 2, which goes beyond that, and which is incorrect. The man divorcing his wife in a state of sleep. He's sleep talking, and she says, "Let me go, divorce me." And he says, "Yeah, you're divorced." That's incorrect. His mind wasn't there. All right. And any other time in which a person is forced or coerced, or a man divorces his wife 5 times, 10 times, "I divorce you perpetually," or a man says, "You to me are like my mother's back. I can't sleep with you. You're no different than my mother," etc. In which the divorce is invalid, is impermissible, is totally incorrect. So therefore, divorce should be done with a cool head. A cool head, not angry. You don't divorce your wife after you just slept with her. That makes no sense. If she was that much of an evil person, a wicked Muslim, a disobedient woman, why'd you sleep with her? You just made love with her. Now you're divorcing her. That doesn't make sense. Let alone the fact that that's going to cause a hardship, because she doesn't know whether she's pregnant, whether she's conceived or not. How long would the iddah be? 4 months, 5 months, etc. So that's the proper divorce. Many things are not obligatory. You don't have to have witnesses, but it's best, because people forget and people lie. They forget and they lie. So having witnesses, etc. Wallahu a'lam. That's in brief.
Some brothers, in my wife, when I got the problem, and both of them are cautious and said, "Well, I'm doing what I want to do."
What? Clear. Well, a man, and of course, I can't, I don't have much room to talk, but a man is supposed to have control over himself. And it's a well-known fact is that one of the worst emotions to lose control of is anger. There are many emotions that you could have, or impulses: lust, greed, fear. I'm scared, I ran. I'm sorry, I got scared. That's not the same as losing control of your anger. You cannot control when you're mad. That's a big problem as a Muslim. And the Prophet ﷺ said, "La taqba," don't get angry. So whether you divorce your wife or not, if you don't have control over your actions because of anger, it's a very dangerous situation that you're in. And anything can happen based off of anger. And it's a well-known fact, one of the easiest ways of baiting your enemy and getting him to come out from his protection is through what? Anger. Insult him, call him a bad name, and he'll come out to fight when he wasn't supposed to come out to fight. Anger can get your life taken from you. So Islam promotes control, calmness, be cool, be calm. Don't let the anger control you. If a man divorces his wife and he's angry, which most men do, the divorce counts. Unless it was such an anger in which he didn't remember anything. He blacked out, as they say. I don't know what happened. I was so angry, I lost it. I went crazy. And went crazy. And then afterwards, after everything was broken and thrown all over the place, or I did this to this one and that one, I said, "Whoa, what just happened? What did I do? Why is he on the ground bleeding? I did that to you?" Your wife, she's holding her face. He doesn't even remember. That's not the normal anger of argument, or he went through my phone, or this happened, or you didn't buy me this, or the other reasons why people get divorced. In which a man and a woman are what? Angry. So some anger in the divorce counts. And it's not an excuse. The talaq is there. You said the words, khalas. And sometimes it's a level of anger which is so extreme in which the person is like majnoon. He's not responsible for his actions. But how many of us actually get to that point? And who divorces their wife laughing and joking? Most people that get divorced when they're what? When they're angry. And that's why the Prophet told us never to what? Get angry. Control yourself. And do things with a clear mind. Last but not least is, if you cannot stomach the thought of your wife being with another man, walking to the masjid with another man on the Eid, holding hands, this is a reality. Your wife, Eid al-Adha, Eid al-Fitr, she came to the masjid with you. Eid al-Adha, she comes to the masjid, walking with brother Fulan. It's a reality now. Walking, making the takbir to the masjid. If you can't stomach that thought, if that makes your stomach upset, then control yourself. You know you want to be with her, you know you love your wife. Okay, she made a mistake, you're not perfect, do what? Fasbir, be patient and fix the situation instead of divorce, you're divorced. Because most men, when they divorce their wives in anger, they regret it. And then they have to search for a fatwa to re-glue the broken pieces. So be careful. And Allah knows best. That's what those are. Khalas, inshallah, we'll stop tonight. Jazakumullah khairan. Sallallahu alaihi wa sallam wa barak. Ala abdihi wa rasulihi nabiyina.